And this small change helped me increase my deadlift by over 12% in just 6 months. What's up, my name is Dr. Alex Straley, helping you decrease daily aches and pains and improve performance. Now when I got started on YouTube, I told myself I will never do a how to deadlift video. Here we are. The reason being, there's so many videos out there of how to deadlift. So not to be like every other how to deadlift tutorial, I went through and watched the top 10 how to deadlift videos, and I'm here to fill in all the gaps. So hopefully after you watch this one, you'll never need another how to deadlift tutorial. Before we get into the setup, let's talk about sumo versus conventional, because it's going to play a factor. By definition, conventional has your hands outside of your legs, and sumo is going to have your hands inside of the legs. You'll notice on conventional that your hips are higher and you have a more horizontal posture. However, neither is better than the other, they just work the body differently. A conventional deadlift puts more emphasis on the glutes, whereas sumo deadlift puts more emphasis on the quads. And you'll often find with sumo it's harder to get off the ground, but easier at lockout, where conventional is opposite. Online, you can also find this chart looking at your torso and your arm length to determine which stance may be better for you. I think the best way is to give them both a fair shot and see which one feels more comfortable, more natural, and stronger for you. Whichever one you do decide, you can use the other one as an accessory lift. We're going to start our feet and work our way up. With conventional, it's often recommended to have your feet shoulder width apart a little less. I like to do a jump test where you hang on a bar and let go, or you can do a vertical jump and see where your feet land. Typically, your body's going to land in the most powerful position. So it's good to start with your feet in one of those two spots and work from there. With sumo, your feet are wider, typically stacked underneath your knees. A good starting spot is to find the ring and see if you line up there. So from here, my knees are directly over my feet. Now I'll get into this later. This may be your strongest position, but it might not be the best position. When it comes to how close you should be to the bar should line up in the middle of your foot. This can often be deceiving because when we look down, we forget about our heel. A quick estimate on where the middle of your foot is where your laces are lined up, or where that bump is on the middle of your foot. It's generally a little bit harder to see on sumo if the bar's in the middle of your foot because your feet are rotated out more. It's good though, each time you get into your position, take a look over to see if the bar is actually stacked over your foot or not. Let's get into the shin position. Your shin should be perpendicular to the ground. Remember, this is a hip hinge pattern, not a squat pattern. I'm going to go in more detail in the next video about this, but just remember, shins perpendicular to the ground. Your knees will have a slight bend to them, and for the textbook strength way, they'll be stacked over your feet. Like I said, I'll get more into this later. Let's go ahead and skip the hips and move up to the shoulders. When it comes to the shoulders, you want your scapulas to be directly over the bar. With your scapulas, think about pinching them down and together. This is going to elongate your arms, but also create more stability. Now to immediately rotate and adduct your scapulas, you're actually activating your lats even more. Now a little caution, I'll often see new lifters especially bring their shoulder blades together, and watch what happens to my arms when I do that. They come up, so our arms get shorter. I don't know about you, but I can't always see where my scapulas are, so I imagine my shoulders being slightly in front. When my shoulders are in front of the bar, which means my scapula are stacked over the bar, my arms will now be in a straight position. Ideally, your arms are straight down so they're perpendicular to the floor, but this is not always the case for two reasons. The first reason, if you have a wider stance and you try to go straight down, you're going to run into your legs. You may find if you have more narrow shoulders, putting your hands straight down actually puts you off the knurling. Now, there's nothing bad with not lifting on the knurling, but if you're having grip problems, slide it out just a little bit for a little more traction. If you need help with grip strength, scroll down to the description for a link to my video, 2 tips to improve hand and grip technique. Take note that the wider your grip is, the more you're going to lift the bar. Now if I leave my hand straight down and this one goes out to this side, you can see how there's a clear difference between how far I have to lift the bar. Personally, I've had a lot of success with just 2 fingers on the knurling. It allows me to keep my arms as long as I can, they're close to my body, and still gives me enough grip on the bar. It seems like there's a lot of debate on where to look when you're deadlifting, but it's going to be different for everybody. If you're a sumo puller, for example, and you're able to keep a more upright posture, you should be looking more straight or slightly up. However, if you're a conventional lifter, you're probably going to be more bent over, so you're going to be looking down. The thing that seems to be the most consistent between sumo and conventional is to keep your chin up. Now you don't need to look all the way up to the ceiling, although some have had great success doing this. If you're on conventional, look about 15 to 20 feet in front of you. If you're doing sumo, look in front of you or straight up. This is all going to depend on how vertical your torso is. We want to avoid looking down because that can cause our spine to flex. And if you have pain looking up or hyperextending your neck, avoid that as well. I see more often with conventional lifters trying to look straight ahead or even up, and they're going to have more neck pain just from all that hyperextension. So back to our hips. Once we get everything set in place, our hips are probably going to be exactly where they need to be. So take a look. My feet are directly in the middle of the bar. My chins are perpendicular and I'm looking forward. My hips just end up here. Now they should end up somewhere between your knees and your shoulders. We don't want to see up too high, and we definitely don't want to see them below because that's more of a squat. All right, let's talk about 2 advanced tips on how to set up for deadlift. The first one is going to be your bracing and breathing, which should go hand in hand. While you're sitting there at home, I want you to tighten your core. Did you squeeze in or did you push out? You should be pushing out. What you can do is put your hands around your torso. Your thumbs are gonna be in the back, your palms gonna be in the middle, and your fingers up front. From here, you wanna breathe in, brace, and push out 360 degrees. For most people, breathing forward is easy, going out to the side is a little more difficult, and going back is the hardest. You may find that you're moving your spine in order to tighten the muscles. We don't wanna do that. We just wanna breathe into it. Unfortunately, we can't deadlift with our hands around our torso. If only there's some external thing that we could push our torso into. Remember though, with bracing, you want to breathe out, not in. In order to take the deepest breath you can, breathe all the way through your nose and then breathe in through your mouth for that last little bit. Try this opposite and you'll realize how much more you can get by going through your nose first. Before I get to the next part of this video, make sure to hit that like button and let me know down in the comments, do you prefer sumo or conventional? Now let's get into the final step of everything, that's the wedge. The wedge will happen once we're about to pull the bar off the ground. I'm a sumo lifter, so I'm going to show that first. So starting from the feet going up, my feet are pressing out, my knees are rotating out, and my hips are shooting forward. I'm bracing my core in 360 degrees. I'm internally rotating my arms, squeezing as hard as I can, and pulling my scapulas down and in. I'm popping my chest slightly up and looking forward. So here's how it's going to look all together. Simply by using my body weight and wedging into position, the bar already came off the ground in an inch or two. The last thing I'm going to touch on is all the variations that you can do with a deadlift, either conventional or sumo. And I'm not talking about accessories, but I'm talking how you actually set up. I like to think of it this way. On this side, you have optimal strength, and over here, you have optimal leverages. And somewhere in the middle lies performance. So as I mentioned, with sumo, having your knee directly over your foot is the strongest, but it's not the best leverage. Having your hands directly on your shoulder is going to give you the most leverage, but maybe not the most strength, because you can't hold on to the bar. Now for me, doing sumo, I always would have the ring in the middle of my leg. So it would look something like this. Now this position allowed me to be strong, but it wasn't my best leverage. So what I actually did is widen my stance out. My toes are about an inch away from the plate, and this is significantly increasing my leverage. As you can see, when I deadlift the wider stance, the bar goes to here. However, my old way of deadlifting, I had to lift it all the way up to here. Wow! And the 2 years prior in meet, my deadlift went from 501 to 528. By switching to this wider stance, increasing my leverage, but actually decreasing my strength, my performance improved from 528 to 574. So what this points to is whatever you see or read online or someone tells you, take with a grain of salt. Yes, there are stronger positions and ones that elicit more EMG readings. However, they may not be your best performing positions. So give it all a try. Make sure you stick around for the next one. I'm going to show you the execution of the deadlift as well as common errors and how to fix them.